You're probably wondering why I have this tiny crown on my big ass head, and it is because I'm uploading this on my birthday. A gift from me to you guys would be to tell you guys about my all-time favorite books because I get this question so much. I never did it all-time favorite books because my list is so short, and like I'm always like, oh, there's so many books out there that I could read that like there might be a new favorite book, but I haven't added an all-time favorite book to my list in a very long time. I'm always pushing it off because I wanted the list to be like all of my all-time favorite books, and like if I would have read like Mistborn, it would be on my all-time favorite books. But it's like I can always do this video again a few years from now. I just wanted to upload this just so you guys can finally know what my all-time favorite books are. I just want to let you guys know that it's not that many. I'm very picky with my all-time favorite books. My rating is just me being picky, like literally. I only give books that I really, really love 5 stars. And even if I give those books 5 stars, they aren't even considered my all-time favorite books. I literally have like 17 books on my all-time favorite, and like half of them are like series. We're just gonna start off with the books that I've added the latest, and that will be Lady Midnight and Chain of Gold. So if you guys didn't know, I basically read these books for the first time in February. I read the entire Shadowhunter Chronicles in February, and then I read this book in March. So I really, really love this book. I did not care about the Infernal Devices. I thought it was really, really boring. I don't like Tessa as a character. I think she's the most bland character. But this isn't a drag session. This is me talking about my favorite books. Mortal Instruments was like, man, it was good. I really, really love City of Heavenly Fire. Like, that book was like literally gold to me. So when I went into Lady Midnight, this is a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. I love everything about this book. Sadly, the series, like, they go from like 5 stars to like 4 stars because I just didn't like the, like, everyone loves Lord of Shadows, but I didn't. I just love everything about this book. My favorite trope is childhood lovers, but I feel like a lot of authors don't do that well, and this book just has so much angst. Like, Julian has so much angst. I really just think that this book just falls under my favorite things in one book. Like, it has a poly relationship, it has childhood best friends, it has a big family. Like, I love big families. I am from a big family. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, so I know how Julian feels. I just loved everything about this book. And we have Chain of Gold, which I absolutely loved. Chain of Gold. I'm gonna take this off. Oh, my hair, because that was starting to get on my nerves. So I love Chain of Gold. It was just so amazing. I think that the cover is so pretty, which is why I'm so sad, because the second book cover is horrendous. It is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I don't even know if I want it on my shelf. I don't have enough room for it, so I don't even think I'm gonna like buy it, and if I do buy it, it's not going on my Cassandra Clare shelf. I'm sorry, but the book is a disgrace. Like, I don't know what to say. It's ugly. It's hideous. I love Chain of Gold. This book also has childhood friends to lovers, plus marriage of convenience, plus friend groups. I love friend groups, and this has a big friend groups. It has, and then the friend groups are like split. So there's like the cast of characters, which is one big friend group, and then there's the boys, which are the married thieves. And I just love this book, and it's about a, I forget what she is. I think she's Persian. I can't remember, but she's Persian, and I love reading about women of color in books, and I'm so glad that Cassandra Clare wrote about somebody who isn't white for once. The next book I have is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. I love this book. I haven't reread it in such a long time, but I sprayed the edges red, and it was like the best decision I ever made. I first read this book because I went on a date with this guy, and we went to go see Love, Simon. I hadn't read the book yet, but I loved the movie. It was like the best date I ever had. Sadly, me and the guy never got together, but it was like the best date. It was like literally it was my first date. It is the best date. It tops like all dates I've been on since then, which are only like 2. I was like, you know what, I really like that movie, like let me read the book to it. And I'm the kind of person where I can read a book after a movie and still enjoy it. I personally like it too because I already know what's gonna happen, so it's like a reread instead of a first read. I don't mind knowing what I'm going into. So when I read this, I really liked it, and it's actually really different from the movie. Like, he has a sister in this, and it made me so mad reading this, knowing that they just completely erased an entire character from this book. Absolutely love this book. Like, I love Simon as a character. I love Blue. I love the relationship. I love the emails. Like, I just thought that this book was so cute. I'm gonna try to get my brother Daniel to read it because I think that he would adore this book, but Daniel hasn't been reading lately, so I digress. So the next series I have on this list is the Folk of the Air series. I'm only holding up one book because I don't want to mess up the aesthetic. Like I'm sorry, I don't want to mess up the aesthetic. So the Folk of the Air series is my all-time favorite series. Obviously, this is like number one on my all-time favorite series. Like I just love it. It's my only favorite like YA fantasy book, I think, now that I think about it. But I just love everything about this book. And it's basically, if you don't know what it's about this girl named Jude, and she was kidnapped and taken to the world of fairy. And she lives with the guy who kidnaps her, which is actually her sister's dad. So he takes them in and he like trains them, whatever. And she kind of is basically a knight, and she's trained to be a knight for the fairy prince until a bunch of shit goes down. And a lot of people think that this book is boring, which is understandable. When I first read the book, I listened to the audiobook, so I was just chilling or whatever. I liked Carden, but this book really tricks you. Like everything about this book I love. Like none of the characters are great. Like literally there's no good character in this book. Everyone is evil, everyone's morally gray, and I love that. Like I don't want to read a book with a bunch of goody two shoes and people who want to do good. I want people who's ready to fuck some shit up. Like I want people who's ready to burn down literally everything. I love Carden. Everyone thinks that Carden's just like this evil prince when in reality he's a soft boy. You see it in the first book multiple times. I think that people just don't want to pay attention to that, and they want to make Carden out to be like this guy who like really hates Jude, but he does nice things for her all the time. Mans was trembling in his boots when at the end, basically. I don't want to give spoilers away, but stuff goes down in book 2. And then the Wicked King, I love the Wicked King. I love like Carden being like the drunk king and Jude basically treating him as her puppet and the smut. And then I love the Queen of Nothing because there is just you see how soft Carden is. Like a lot of people said that Carden acted out of character, but if you really read the book like all in one thing, or even just like I don't know, I have some Carden tabs. Like all of my blue tabs are Carden, and he's very soft. Like you can see from the beginning, you can see from the middle book, and then you can see from the last book. Like he's a very soft guy. So I don't understand why people are like, oh, Carden was so out of character. Like what did you expect Carden to do? Like try to kill her? Like he was so in love with this girl from the jump. Like we had evidence multiple times. I just think that people had this idea of what Carden was, and because he didn't live up to that, they were disappointed, and that's fine. But saying he acted out of character was like, did we read the same series? I don't think so. So the next and only series I have on this list is To All the Boys I Loved Before. I don't know if people will be surprised by this or not, but I love this series with all of my heart. I first read To All the Boys I Loved Before the year it came out, which was like 2014, or maybe it came out the year afterwards. But my sister, she had got this one. My sister, she loves reading like, at the time this book wasn't popular. She loves reading like books that like aren't really popular and like quirky and like they match, like they just fit perfectly for her. And I'm always like, how did you find this book? Like how? And she's like, I don't know. And so when we were in, I was in high school. I was in junior year of high school, and my sister was in she was in 8th grade, and she was like, yeah, I just started read this book and it's about these sisters. And well, it's not about the sisters, but it's like the sisters really reminded me of us. Like they're really close and they always braid each other's hair. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. I read this book and I fell in love with it. I love everything about this book. I know a lot of people don't like this book because they think that Laura Jean is naive, but I was very naive when I was around Laura Jean's age. I wasn't as naive as her, but like nearly as naive. So it was like I thought it was understandable. And like even sometimes when I reread it, her being naive does irritate me, and sometimes it doesn't. It really just is like depending on what mood I am when I reread this. I reread this book twice a year. I read it in the winter and I read it in the summer. And I love it every time. When I first had this book, it was my sister's copy and we shared a copy, and she would use a certain highlighter and I would use a certain highlighter, and then we just stopped caring and we shared the same highlighter. And I just love this series so much. I love Peter Kavinsky. I love the relationship because they have a lot of banter, and I really love that. Like a lot of like this book, and then it had fake dating, which of course I loved. A lot of romances like are hit or miss with me because I really like specific things in my romances, but also I know that I'm gonna give a romance like either 4 or 5 stars when I read it. But this book is like my all-time favorite book. I actually don't like YA high school romances, contemporaries. Like I do not like that. I don't like reading YA contemporary period unless it's hard hitting. I don't like reading YA romance, period, at all. I don't like high school books, but I will read them because most of the time I do read it if it's in dark romance. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Like, I love my dark romances, but they're always like seniors. And so this book was just one of the only exceptions. And I also was in high school when I read this, so it makes sense as to why I loved it. Yes, I Still Love You. I loved P.S. I Still Love You, but I only loved it because of the assassin game that they played. And in the movie, they didn't do that, and that's their first mistake, and that's why the movie was boring, because the game of assassin wasn't in it, and it was super, super long. They should have just put the game of assassin in it because it helped out the plot so much. I love the game of assassin that they play, that it has its own tab. It's the purple tabs, and I feel like it helped the plot. I did not like the love triangle in it. I don't mind love triangles. I really don't care. I don't love them. I don't hate them. I don't care for them. Like, if it has love triangle, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna read this book. Like, I'm gonna read it. Mainly because you always know who the character's gonna get with. I knew she was gonna get with Peter. Like, come on now. All these other, like, everyone says that Peter's a jerk, but I guess I understand, but all guys are jerks. Like, all men are shitty. Like, what do you expect? Like, I feel like if she would have got with John, he would have done something stupid. If she would have got with whatever his name was in the first book, he would have done something stupid. He did do stupid stuff. So it's like, I don't understand why people hate Peter Kavinsky so much. And I guess it's because he's like the popular, like, well-loved guy that people just don't like his personality. But I feel like Peter is a really sweet guy, and he clearly loved Laura Jean. And I mean, obviously, it's always like the soft boy versus like the player, which is understandable. But John Emerald was too soft for me. Like, she didn't need a guy to be like coddling her and stuff like that. She needed a Peter, to be honest. And obviously Peter did mess up a lot, but men. And then Always and Forever Laura Jean, I don't really care for this book as much. I have reread this book a lot less, and I remember when this book was first coming out, and me and my sister were so happy. Literally, we were trying to decide like which color it was going to be, because the first book is pink, and then this one is blue, and this one is purple. We thought it was going to be yellow because purple and pink are kind of the similar colors, so like, ah. So I like this book, but it's my least reread book, because it's just like, I mean, it's cute because it's Peter and Laura like being happy together and going out to college and stuff like that, but it's like, it's useless. So the next book I have is a romance book, and that is the Unhoneymooners. I love the Unhoneymooners. This has like my favorite tropes. The Unhoneymooners is basically about these two people who hate each other, and they end up going to Hawaii because their siblings are married to each other, and they're going to Hawaii because their siblings both get sick, and one has a sibling's last name and the other one is the sibling's twin. So they go to Hawaii because like the bride is like really, really cheap, and she loves getting things on discount. So DoorDash has been sitting outside for a good 18 minutes now. So I really love this book because it has my favorite trope, which is marriage of convenience, and I just love that. And it takes place in Hawaii. When I get married, I want a honeymoon in Hawaii, like, or visit Hawaii, be in love in Hawaii, basically. And I just love this book so much. There are some things that I don't like about this book. Like, obviously, I don't really like how it's fade to black, because Christina Lauren does not do fade to black, but they have in this book, and I really hate that they did that because they really do smutty books. And then I don't like how the boyfriend and the sister reacted to the main character in the end. You know, that one scene where they all are mad at each other, blah, 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 you know, and they make up in the same 10 pages. I didn't like how the boyfriend reacted, and I didn't like how the sister reacted either, but I still loved it. Like, I loved everything about this book. I love the angst. The way that they hated each other were stupid, but it was enemies to lovers too. It was enemies to lovers, marriage of convenience, take place in Hawaii. My favorite things. Next book on this list will actually be Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Take a Hit, Danny Brown, but it's over on the other bookshelf, and I'm not getting up again to go get it. So I really loved Get a Life, Danny Brown, and Take a Hit, Danny Brown. I actually loved Take a Hint, Danny Brown a lot more than Get a Life, Chloe Brown, but I just love this book so much. Like, a black romance, I love it. A black adult romance like really makes me so happy, and I really love the relationships in this book and how Chloe was. And one of my favorite things was the main guy. Like, he was always calling her like a spoiled girl, like a spoiled princess, and like princess and all this stuff. And I'm like, me, because, you know, black girls don't typically get to be spoiled. Like, they don't get to be like the rich girl in the book, and I like that they did that in this book. And then I also like Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I really like that. I think his name, I can't remember his name because I read so many books since then, but the main love interest and Take a Hint, Danny Brown, like I really loved him. He was very soft. He was like a big guy. He loved romance. He was a hopeless romantic. And I'm like, wow, that's my kind of man. A man who is like has big muscles that I could climb like a tree and is like a hopeless romantic. That is very unrealistic. I hate that for me. The next two books are the only other YA romance contemporaries that I have on this list, and that would be Everything, Everything, and The Sun is Also a Star. They aren't series, if you didn't know that. Everything, Everything is about this girl who basically is sick and has to stay in the house, and then she ends up falling in love with her neighbor. And this is about a girl who's getting deported, and she ends up falling in love with this random guy. And so I love Everything, Everything because I watched the movie first, and then I read the book, and I love the movie. I relate to the main character a lot. My mom is very smothering. She's very overprotective, and now that I'm grown, she literally doesn't care what I do. And it's like I get confused because I'm so used to my mom being protective and like all this stuff, that now that she's like, oh, I don't care, and I'm just like, so what do I do? But at the time that I read this, I could really relate. I didn't have a job, and I was just out of high school, so I was at home all the time. The only thing I had to keep me company was books, and the main character, all she had to keep her company was books. She couldn't leave the house, and it's like I didn't leave the house because I had nowhere to go. Like I didn't have any friends, I wasn't in school, I didn't have a job, like I was just at home chilling all the time. And so I really related to the main character a lot. Plus Nick Robinson is a love interest, and Nick Robinson is my man's. Like I love me some Nick Robinson, so obviously I ate this book up. Also, it's multimedia, and it was like the first multimedia book I've ever read, and I just sped through this book. I haven't reread it, and I should, but and also they take a trip to Hawaii. Like The Sun is Also a Star. I actually read this book before I watched the movie, but I love The Sun is Also a Star. I didn't think I would like it because it has insta love, but I think that if insta love is done good, it could be very well, and this is a good example of it. And you never even realize that this all takes place in one day, and I just loved it. I thought it was super super cute. I love the talk of like Asian beauty supply stores appropriating black culture, and then when black customers come in, they use it against them, and they try to be like, oh, you're stealing from me and stuff like that, because there is a scene that happens to that, and it's like one of my favorite scenes because when I was like a few years ago, me and my mom and my sister were in the beauty supply store, and my mom went to walk somewhere and to go get stuff. So we were just with my mom. So we were just walking around, like talking, giggling, all this stuff. And the guy was literally following us around. And I'm like, these two white girls walk in, and he doesn't follow the white girls, and he's paying attention to us. I'm like, those white girls literally could have stole anything, and you wouldn't have known because you weren't paying attention. You were paying attention to the black girls. And it's so interesting to me because they beauty supply stores obviously are targeted towards black people, and so it's crazy that they targeted towards black people, but they also are very racist towards black people. And I just think that that's so interesting, so I'm really glad that this book touched on that. And also the movie has Charles Melton, who's also my man's, so it's like Nicole Yoon. And it's like I love The Sun is Also a Star and Everything Everything because it's about black girls being happy, no trauma. I don't have to worry about anything. It's just black happiness, black girls falling in love, and I don't care. I just loved it. Like it means everything to me, and it's a book that I cannot wait to pass down to my children for them to read, because I want them to read black girls being happy. Before I was really interrupted by my camera being overheated. Well, the next book I have is Radio Silence. It's basically about this girl who, dang, I forget if she wrote fan fiction or did fan art. I'm pretty sure it's fan art. She drew fan art for this podcast thingy called University City, I think. And she ends up going to this party one night and finding the creators of it, and they end up becoming friends. And I really, really love this book because it focuses a lot on like anxiety and mental health. And I read this book when I was on a plane, and I'm on plane rides a lot. Like when I was younger, I was always on a plane, so I don't know why. I guess because I had went so long without getting on a plane that like when I grew up, I was just like, being on a plane just makes me nervous. Like I literally have to hold someone's hand. And so I was listening to an audiobook of this, and I was coming home, and I was listening to an audiobook of this, and it helped me get through the plane ride. And sometimes I think that your favorite books don't have to be your favorite books because of the context in the books, but sometimes I think that what happens when you're reading it also helps, and like the memories you have with it and things like that. And so this book really helped me through a tough time, and I just was enjoying it, and I loved it so much. And it might not be the best book ever, But this book is my favorite book of all time because I loved it. And also the main character is black, and I love that. And this book focuses on so many important things like friendship and mental health and college and things like that. And I loved it. So the next book I have, I think doesn't come to any surprise to anyone, but it is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This book is the first book in the series. The other books haven't came out yet, and I love this book. I have 2 copies of it. This is the UK edition. Under the Dust Jacket is so beautiful. So I had to get the UK edition. I'm sorry to the US edition, and then this, I do have the US edition in the book of the month, in my book of the month collection. And I just love Ninth House so much. It is basically about this girl who can see ghosts, which are referred to as greys, and she works for this secret society basically to just help people. And she has a partner. His name is Darlington, and I just think that that's so cute because his name is Daniel Arlington, and I just think that that's so creative. And I love Darlington as a character because I'm a Virgo. Obviously, my birthday is when this video is going up, technically, so today, but not in my today, but your today. So he reminds me, he just has such Virgo energy. Like, he's very like pretentious and very organized and very strict to the rules, and that I related to his character in a lot of those parts because I am very like organized. Like, I always have an itinerary. I literally have 100 notes on my phone, and it's just the most random things ever. I plan out everything. Everything is organized for me. Like, I just a Virgo to the T, and so Darlington really reminded me of that. And also like this book because it doesn't have a lot of romance in it, but I don't mind it in the aspect that it was. When I first read this book, I didn't think I would. When the book first came out, I didn't think that I would like it because of how everyone else talked about it. But I really think that when you read books, you don't need to go based on how other people feel because you may not feel the same about it. And things that they don't like in a book, they might not mention the things that you would like. Like, for instance, in this book, a lot of people just thought that the book was slow paced and that nothing really happened. But my favorite part of the book is actually the memories of both the main character Alex and Darlington when they were kids, and just them growing up, and how Alex ended up finding out she could see grays, and how Darlington, his parents were rich, but his parents were like, they wanted him to be a certain way, and he just wanted to be like his grandfather. He wanted to be with his grandfather. And I really liked that aspect. I just thought that this book was so funny and relatable, and I really liked that it was dark academia and it took place in a real actual college. Like, it's literally urban fantasy, and I just appreciate and love this book so much. The very last book I have on this list is The Poppy War. I'm currently reading The Dragon Republic, and it will stay on this list. I think that, like, a book is my all-time favorite when I am reading the entire trilogy. The only time I read an entire trilogy is if it's romance, and that's because I can just speed through that shit. But that I love a fantasy when I have read the entire trilogy. I'm working on it with The Poppy War, so don't get too wrong. I'm working on it. But I love The Poppy War. The Poppy War is basically about a fantasy China and a fantasy Japan going to war with each other. There's this girl named Rin, and she is dark-skinned Asian, and she's poor, and nobody really likes her because she's dark-skinned. They think she's stupid, and so she wants to join the military, so she decides to get into the military. So first half of the book is about the military and stuff like that. And it's kind of, I don't want to say dark academia, but it focuses on military. I like school settings in books and military settings and things like that. So typically, I was eating this book up. This also has, like, she's like the only girl in a group of guys trope, low-key, and I love that trope. It's one of my favorite tropes. If you can see, like, a lot of my favorite books just have, like, a lot of my favorite tropes I used to read when I was in Wattpad. Back before Wattpad had fan fiction and it was just, like, regular, like, books written by teenagers. Technically, like, I just realized that when I was reading Dragon Republic. I was like, she's the only girl in a group of guys, and I ate it up. Also, I think that Rin is the baddest bitch ever. She is my favorite female character, like, ever written, because she's so realistic. She's so stupid, but when she wants to get something done, she will get it done. And I love that. And she is not afraid to cry, but she also, when she's crying, she's like, you know what? I need to step it up. And then she'll get what she has to get done. And I really love the characters. There are funny characters. There are characters who are mean to her. There are characters who literally threaten to kill her. There are characters who would literally try to kill her. Like, the friend group in this book is just like a family. Like, they hate each other, but it's like found family as well. And I just love everything about The Poppy War, and obviously I've read it twice, and this book is huge. Well, it's not huge, but it's an adult fantasy. And so, as you can see from my list of favorite books, they're all a variety of things. So I have, like, I do have YA, I do have adult, I have romance. Like, I just love reading a lot of genres, and I can't wait to have a sci-fi book added to this list and a bunch of other things. But I've been talking forever, so I'm just going to end this video. So I hope that you liked it. Let me know if you share any of the same all-time favorite books, and if you've watched to this part, comment a birthday cake. And I just want to tell all of you guys, you know, a little heart to heart. I really love all of you guys who watch my videos and support my channel. I think of you guys as my friends. Like, I know when I'm doing live streams that there are going to be my favorites in my live streams in the comments, and I notice people in my comments all the time when you comment on my videos. And even if you just comment a heart, I notice you. I notice how many videos you comment on and everything like that. I just want to say thank you for supporting me, and I never want to take that for granted. I know a lot I complain about views and stuff, but recently I actually haven't really been caring about it. I just love uploading. I love YouTube, and I had to sit back and think that there are 25,000 people who are subscribed to me. And even just subscribing to me, like, whether you watch my videos or not, you took the time to click subscribe because you cared about what I have to say, and that means the world to me, and that is the best birthday present I could ever get from anyone. So I just want to say that I do appreciate every one of you so much, whether you watch my videos or you subscribe to me or not. I do not care. I just am very appreciative. So like I said, leave a cake down below for your girl, and I'll see you guys in my next video.